ugly on the campaign trail. I mean, really ugly. Republican candidates unleashing their sharpest attacks ahead of Super Tuesday. And guess what? It's getting very personal.
He's like 6'2", which is why I don't understand why his hands are the size of someone who's 5'2". Have you seen his hands? They're like this. And you know what they say about men with small hands? You can't trust them.
And I see him starting to sweat like I have never seen anything like it. Thank God he has really large ears, the biggest ears I've ever seen.
I mean, wow. Here to weigh in, Sabrina Schaefer, Executive Director of the Independent Women's Forum. We have Boris Epshteyn, former aide to John McCain, and Judy Miller, Manhattan Institute adjunct fellow, a Fox News contributor. Sabrina, I will start with you. I mean, Trump is just going for, you know, the body parts, I guess, in his insults. Marco Rubio's hired a comedy writer. It's gotten very, very personal out there. What do you think?
It has. It has. It is sort of like a race to the bottom right now, which is not exactly something that voters really want to hear. But the reality is the stakes are very high. Things are very heated right now. Trump is running away in all of the polls, especially at the state level. If Marco Rubio doesn't stand up now, it's probably already too late, which is the real question here.
Boris, people say every time there's an election, this is the dirtiest race of all time. We've hit a new low. I mean, you hear those words every time. This time it may actually be true.
It may be. Marco Rubio is making a mistake long term as far as his vitality goes, as far as his political future goes. He's not running for the Senate. He's not going to be the nominee this time. If Republican history holds, if he were the second in line, he would have a really good shot to be the nominee in the future. But by acting the way he is, so unnatural to himself, so negative, and you could see this doesn't fit him. Donald Trump is comfortable making attacks. Rubio is not.
Judy,
he's making a mistake doing it.
Let me argue the other side, because I think Marco Rubio looks very comfortable. I think it's worked incredibly well for Trump. And, maybe people out there are saying finally one of the GOP candidates, one of the other ones, has woken up and is giving it to Donald as good as he gets it. Do you think people out there are thinking things like that?
Well, I think some people out there are thinking things like that, and we're certainly going to see this on Super Tuesday. But I just think that for the party of Lincoln to descend to this level, this kind of puerile mud wrestling and name-calling is just an extraordinarily sad spectacle for America. And I know that the Hillary Clinton people are just loving it.
Well, I mean, it's not like it's that clean on the other side, but it hasn't quite reached this level. Sabrina, I mean, there are people out there, so there are people in the establishment, in TV studios, who are watching this and who are saying they're not talking about the issues. But then there's a lot of regular people out there who don't pay attention to politics most of the time and feel like America has fallen apart and say, finally, someone's doing something different. Like the way people have been talking and approaching politics hasn't worked for me and my family. And these people are speaking a different language. Maybe this is better.
Yeah, no, Melissa, and that's sort of the point here, right? Ultimately, will Rubio's attacks, for instance, be effective in slowing down Trump? And that's where I don't think they will be. And I think it's for exactly the reason you say. I think that people hear someone from the establishment go after Trump like this. It's going to make Trump supporters dig their heels in deeper and say that is exactly why we support him. We hate this kind of dirty politics as usual. It doesn't matter that Donald Trump's been throwing the mud for months now. The reality is they think he stands for something that is so different and so against the grain from here in Washington that they're willing to put up with that. But I'm not sure it'll hold for Rubio.
Boris, do you really think this hurts Marco Rubio next time? I mean, for example, if you look at the barbs that Chris Christie and Donald Trump traded, the things that they said about each other, now they came out, they put their arms around each other, they're best friends. No one remembers what happened 2 weeks ago. I mean, it seems like Marco Rubio can reinvent himself as whoever he wants to be once this is over. No?
He's got a history of trying to reinvent himself. But the barbs between Christie and Trump were not nearly as personal or nearly as nasty as these. So I think if a little more of this, and it could hurt Marco. It's hurt him in this election. You saw the last poll. He's lower now nationally than he was before the last debate and before he went on this full offensive. So it's hurting him already with the electorate.
I mean, Christie's pretty nasty. He called him a carnival barker. He said that he was going for entertainer-in-chief. I mean, they were pretty tough on each other. But I hear what you're saying. Judy, I'll give you the last word.
Well, I just think that Chris Christie brings his 3% of the vote that he got to Donald Trump's side. I don't think it's going to matter. I think that Trump is going to do what he's going to do. Trump can be Trump. The issue is, as Boris says, is this going to be compelling to the people who've been supporting Marco Rubio? What does it do to their support? I've just never seen anything like this in American politics, a descent to this level.
It certainly feels that way. Thanks to all three of you. David.
It is compelling.
Yeah, for all the wrong
Everybody
reasons,
watches.
maybe. Yeah.
All right, be sure to